Manufacturers add sesame flour to avoid cleaning compliance with labeling laws. This obviously is not my story, but this definitely falls in the spirit of malicious compliance. Last year, President Biden signed the Food Allergy Safety, Treatment, Education and Research, FASTER, Act, which was intended to improve product labeling and cleaning around allergens. However, rather than clean better and safeguard against sesame cross-contamination, many manufacturers have started adding sesame flour deliberately into products that were previously sesame-free. This relieves them of the burden of meticulous cleaning since the product is now clearly labeled as containing sesame. Malicious corporate compliance. Source: https www. Washington Post.com. Wellness, the 11th of April 2023. Sesame allergy law consequences. My first reaction was, screw them. But in reflecting further, as someone who is severely allergic to sesame, I think I'd rather them add it and disclose it as a definite ingredient than risk inadvertent contamination. Or just label any and every product as possibly containing. It seems a lot easier to just know for sure. It's basic risk analysis. Grain is brought to the manufacturer by grain haulers. If the haulers don't completely remove all traces of previous loads, it's the manufacturer that gets fined and sued regardless of all the cleaning the manufacturer performed in accordance with the law. A little off topic, but perhaps we should be trying to figure out why food allergies are on the rise, and see if we can't do something that stops people from potentially dying from anaphylaxis when they eat something. I'm allergic to pork, so I have to be super careful. Jell-O, that's out. Most chewy candy has pork product in it. I will only eat at halal restaurants when I go out. I can't take a risk and be on the toilet for 3 days. The pain and cramping is as bad as labor birth pains, if not worse. You'd be surprised to find pork in a lot of food and medicines. They use their feet to get the chewy, springy mouthfeel in foods. The same thing happened with other allergens defined in FALCPA. The problem isn't so much they just don't want to clean, but that it's impossible to clean thoroughly enough to eliminate every last speck of sesame in a facility which has sesame seeds or sesame flour in it as required by the law. You know how pollen or animal dander drift everywhere, and you don't necessarily have to pet the cat or smell the flour to have an allergic reaction. That's the level of sesame they can't eliminate from the facility. An FSMA requires validated cleaning, which is even harder because validation is technically complicated and limited by the ability to accurately test for sesame residue. FALCPA passed before FSMA, so the rules were different when FSMA was first enacted, and test kits caught up industry before FSMA was enforced. I worked in a facility that handled fine powders and had several allergens on site. We had separate rooms with separate air handling units and changed the HEPA filters after each batch, then took the room out of production for at least 2 shifts. Bakeries can't do that. They can't have 3x the ovens and just take them out of service for 2/3 of their operating time. Unless everyone wants to pay 3x the current price for bread. Color me surprised. They expected a business to do the right thing for their customers over maximizing profits. I worked in food processing, and the cleaning process and quality control has always been very meticulous. I don't understand what else there is to do. I can understand the frustration of people with sesame allergies, but I also can understand companies not wanting the liability that comes along with marketing your products as allergen-free. It's just not worth it if you can't absolutely guarantee that at no point in the supply chain did sesame come into contact with any of the ingredients, utensils, machines used to make the bread. Unintended consequences. Read MK1 Fish's comment below. This is what many people don't understand. Majority of the food companies that this rule applies to were already in compliance. But the law skyrocketed the penalties if some inspector came along and found a negligible amount of dust in one batch of 10,000, even if the inspector's tools were the source of the contamination. So the companies said, fine. It's not worth the liability to attempt to comply with an unreasonable standard. It's far safer to just put a little in everything and label it. This explains what is really happening. The first time I hate hearing about malicious compliance. Why would they spend money adding sesame flour when they could achieve the same result simply by labeling? To clarify what is happening, if your product has no sesame, you must comply with the new cleaning standard. If your product has sesame, you must label it to warn customers. However, it is illegal to claim a food contains an ingredient that is not present. In essence, the new law punishes food sellers for not having sesame in their products. Here in the EU there's also regulations for allergens. Instead of adding extra, I've seen them remove some to make them more accessible to wider audiences. I hope for you the US will also head into that direction. Unintended negative consequences are a bitch. Is this why I recently noticed Chick-fil-A and one other say, now contains sesame? This belongs in evil compliance. Now with great tasting, wholesome trace amounts of sesame. Sesame, it's not a bug. It's a feature. I think it makes perfect sense. If they accidentally have a trace of sesame in a product, they are going to get sued. They eliminated that problem. Now here is the answer: start your own company and produce a sesame-free copy. Win-win situation. You get a sesame-free product and you can sell it and make a huge corporate profit and super clean everything every day. I've started making all of our own bread products with this woozy face. My kid has multiple food allergies, and it became so stressful, starting around November, to find anything. I'd look through 10-15 different loaves of bread and find nothing.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.